Welcome to the Love and Victory Show with Val, the place to laugh, sip on a little wine, and have open and honest conversation. Here you will find the tools to resolve real life issues. Unwind, pour up a glass, and get ready to exhale. Okay, welcome to the Love and Victory Show with Val. And today I have a fantastic guest. I've had the privilege of being on his podcast, and I enjoyed the conversation so much. I'm going to let Ari introduce himself. Again, he is an amazing man. He has a wonderful story, and I'm so excited to hear his story. On the Love and Victory Show, with our candid conversation, we are just here freely talking about life, from where we came from to where we're going. We all have a story, and we put our stories together, we can all win together. So, with that being said, Ari, share with them who you are and the correct pronunciation of your name.
Okay, so first of all, my name is Ari Schonbrun.
It's Schonbrun.
Schonbrun, that is
Mm-hmm.
correct. I live in New York. I have a beautiful wife, five beautiful children, four married, one single.
Mm-hmm.
And what else do you want to know?
Oh, I want to know everything it is about you and why is your conversation so exciting?
Okay. So I don't know
Well,
the
let me
eight.
just tell you what the show title is going to be. And then for me, I think you can figure out why it's so exciting. Looking back on 9/11. That's the name of our show
Okay,
today. So I want us to really kind of dig back because 9/11 didn't just, it just touched the whole world.
right.
And I really want to talk about your story and your experience, 9/11.
Okay. So, um, so I don't know the age of your audience, but I'm finding more and more that I'm speaking to audiences who weren't even alive on
Mm-hmm.
9/11, which is not funny, haha, but a little strange,
Yeah.
so to speak. I literally just did a talk for a bunch of high school kids last week, and they weren't alive during 9/11. They had no idea. They didn't know what it was. That's another issue, by the way, that I have that in the education field, that they're not teaching this. They're not.
Right.
It's not in the school books. It's not in the history books. It's nothing, and that is a huge, huge mistake. I
Well,
feel. I
I
mean, this
think
is
I think that, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but that really kind of pairs into the time that we're in now with Black History Month. I think when we start to take history, regardless of what history, out of education and we stop teaching history, we lose so much of things, and we really cheat the younger generation. So I think when it comes to 9/11 and what has taken place there, I think that should be something that is continuously talked about.
well, you know what they say: those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and that's one of the reasons why, and I'm going to get to what the story is, but that's one of the reasons why I travel around the world and I tell my story because I don't want people to forget. And those people that don't know it, I want them to understand what it was. So basically, my name is Ari Schonbrun, and on September 11th of 2001, I was working for a company by the name of Cantor Fitzgerald, which is a brokerage company, and we occupied the top five floors of Tower One, the North Tower of the World Trade Center. We employed 960 people in that office alone. It was our corporate headquarters. And on 9/11, 658 of my friends and coworkers were brutally murdered
Oh my
simply because they were sitting at their desks. They never
God.
did anything to anybody. They never hurt anybody. All they did was
Just showed
go
up
to,
for work.
go to work that day, and like any other day, but on this particular day, they just didn't come home.
Mm. Mm.
And it was a very, very difficult time. Uh, again, not only for me but for the world. But I was just so close to it. All right, I was on the 78th floor of Tower One when the first plane hit. So let me back up a little bit, all
Yes.
right? Because the reality is that I never should have been there in the first place at that time. It was It was Tuesday morning. It was a beautiful day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. Um, it was 20 to 7 in the morning. I had my briefcase over my shoulder. I had my cup of coffee in my hands, and I yelled up to my wife, "Bye, hon. Love you. See ya." I yelled up to my kids, "Bye, kids. Have a great day in school." And I started to walk out the door. And all of a sudden, from the second floor, my wife yells down to me and she says to me, "Did you do Baruch's book order?"
Mm.
Now, Baruch is my third child. He was 8 years old at the time. And I found out that teachers have a wonderful way of torturing parents. It's called, it is called the Scholastic Book Order.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
you're familiar with this.
Yes. That's
Oh
why I
yeah.
laugh.
Well, okay. So, um, my wife, she said to me, Did you do the book order?" I said, "No, I didn't." She goes, "You're not leaving the house until you do the book order."
Wow.
So I'm a good Jewish husband. I listen to my wife.
And
So
you
I put my
sit back.
briefcase down. I put my briefcase down. Put my cup of coffee down. Went into my kitchen and proceeded to negotiate with my 8-year-old
Mm.
for the next 20
Oh
minutes.
my God. Oh my
I
God.
I whittled him down to 2 books.
Okay.
That
And
was
that
pretty
is
good.
literally, that's because they have a whole litany of books they want.
Yeah, right.
And
They want
probably
every
every
book in
book,
game that they're not going to
yes,
read or not going to
that they're
play.
not going to read or play. Exactly. It's
Right.
not their money.
Yeah. So what was interesting though, the books came a couple of weeks later, and the books that he picked were from a series called Survivor.
Wow. Wow.
Well, I'll tell you, when those books
Wow.
showed up, sent a chill down my spine.
Of course. Wow.
Unbelievable. Okay, now you should know that the reality is the book order was actually due on Monday, but
Mm-hmm.
but my son left his pamphlet in school on Friday. So on Monday, my wife wrote a note to the teacher asking her if he can have an extra day to submit, and she sent back a note saying yes, it's okay, and she made sure that the pamphlet was in his knapsack. If he would have brought that pamphlet home on
Mm.
Friday,
Friday, yes.
I would have done it with him on Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
and on Tuesday morning, I would have been at my desk at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you'd be sitting here interviewing a different person because I'd be dead.
Wow.
But
Wow.
because he left that pamphlet in school on Friday, I am here to tell you a story.
Wow.
Now you're going to
um
see stuff like this that happen throughout the day. But go ahead.
that's it's so amazing how God does things. And when you just kind of step back and you really think about how one little decision to stay back, your wife saying to you, "Hey babe, did you get this done? You got to get it done." And had you been like, "I don't have time," and left,
Right.
where would you have been? Or if you would have just like you said, done it on Sunday night. Wow.
Yep. Yep.
Do you have
Yep.
any guilt? Do you feel guilty about that?
No,
Oh, okay, good.
not at all.
Good, good,
Not at
good.
all. I love my wife. I love my kids. I am happy that I am alive. They are happy I'm alive. So no, I do not have any guilt.
Okay.
Anyway, so I finished filling out the check, the tear sheet, put it into his knapsack, pick up my briefcase, pick up my cold cup of coffee, and out the door I go. I get to the World Trade Center as 20 minutes to 9, which is about 40 minutes later than I normally get there.
Hmm.
My office was on the 101st floor. I'll tell you, beautiful view,
Mm,
incredible.
can't even imagine.
Yeah. Now, there were like 12 elevators that went up to the sky lobby on the 78th floor. Because you couldn't take an elevator all the way up to 101. You had to take an express to 78. And on the 78th floor, there were more elevators
Mm,
that took you up to the higher floors. So 78 was like a sky lobby.
mhm.
So I'm downstairs in the lobby, and all of a sudden the first elevator that comes down is all the way on the right side of the lobby. So I go running down to the right to the end of the lobby. I get into the elevator, and we head up. We get out on 78, and the elevator that I now need is all the way on the left side of the sky lobby. So I I uh, I hang a left out of the elevator. I start walking to that bank of elevators. I must have been about 8 feet from those bank of elevators when, as best as I can describe, there was an explosion.
Wow.
I thought a bomb had gone off in the elevator. The the lights went out, the place filled with smoke, and I was literally thrown off my feet. The entire building shook.
Shook. Wow. Wow.
I'm on the floor. There's smoke all over the place. I'm hearing people yelling and screaming, fire in the elevator. And I remember thinking to myself, of course, there's a fire in the elevator. The bomb just went off in there. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I'm looking around, don't know what to do. And all of a sudden, I see between the two of the big elevators, during the two big banks of elevators, there was a light on. Now, like I said, the lights went out, so I figured it was an emergency light. And if it's an emergency light, it's probably a good place to go. But there was a lot of smoke, and I'm sure your audience remembers when they were kids. What do you do when there's a lot of smoke? You stay low to the
Stay
ground,
low
right?
to the ground.
There you go. I crawled from where I was to that light. I stood up and I'm looking around, don't know what to do, where to go. I walk behind the bank of elevators, and sure enough, there's a door. I open the door, there's an office in there, a security office. I had been working in that building for the better part of 8 years. I never knew there was an office on that floor. The only thing I knew was the big security desk in the middle of the
In the
floor and a
middle
whole
of the
bunch
floor.
of elevators.
Wow.
That was it. So I walk in there, and in that office is the fire warden for the floor. Um, to just to give you an idea, to explain to your audience, every floor in the trade center, I'm sure in most buildings also, they had one person on each floor who is designated as the quote unquote fire warden. That means that if anything happens, management knows how to get a hold of him. He's got a special phone. They call him. He calls them. And he wore this red hat that said fire warden on it. All
Mm.
right. So I knew he was the fire warden because I had that same silly hat on my desk because I
Mm.
was the fire warden for my floor. So I go running over to the guy and I say, "Where do we do? What do we do? Where do we go?" He looks at me and goes, "I don't know."
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course he didn't
Of
know.
course.
We didn't
How do you
know.
prepare for that? Right.
No, no. So what do? I go back out into the hall, figuring to myself, let me see if I can find a way out, a stairwell, something, because the elevator shut down.
Yes.
Okay. I get into the hallway and I bump into a coworker of mine. Her name was Virginia DiChiara. Virginia was on the elevator that I was about to get on when that plane hit.
Mm.
And as she described it to me, when the plane hit, the doors had started to close and they jammed open about a foot. The walls in the elevator collapsed. The ceiling collapsed. There was a cable in the elevator that snapped, was sparking. The jet fuel came down the sides of the elevator, ignited by the sparks, and there was a wall of fire. There were three people in that elevator. There was Virginia, Roy Bell, and Renee.
Oh my God.
Roy Bell was the first one to jump through that fire. He suffered second-degree burns.
Mm.
Virginia was the next one to jump out. She suffered third-degree burns.
My God.
And Renee, she died from her burns. All in a space of, you're talking about 6, 8, 10 seconds. That was the difference between life and death that day.
Mm.
So Virginia sees me. She says to me, "Ari, thank God. Please help me. And whatever you do, please don't leave me." And I said to Virginia, "I promise I will not leave you, and we will get out of here." Now, here's another piece of irony. Virginia and I were not good friends.
Mm. Y'all didn't
Mm-mm-mm.
get along in the
Nope.
workplace. Wow.
Nope.
That's how things go. Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, she was an internal auditor who had been hired a year before by Cantor. And the first department she audited was mine.
Oh God.
And
So she
needless
was
to
coming
say,
for you.
she wanted to impress her,
Uh-huh.
her superiors.
Yeah.
She almost got me fired.
Wow. And God brought it full circle. You had to
There
be
you
there to
go.
save. Wow. Whew.
Right? Yep.
I'm just
Um,
sitting here with chills on. You never know. That's why you don't mistreat people. You never know, and you hope on the other side, if you did do someone else wrong, you get an opportunity to get it right before it's too late. Wow.
right. Absolutely. Because you know what? The reality is, it crossed my mind. I could have said, "You know what,
Yeah.
lady?
I'm out of
I,
here.
I'm out of here," right? You
Yeah.
can fend for
Yes.
yourself.
That's what
But
the flesh would have said.
Yeah,
But that
you
shows
know
your
what?
character serves the
That's
person
not
that you are.
right. Exactly. In other words, here was another human being who was in trouble. I was
Mm-hmm.
the guy that God put there, and
Yeah.
it was literally a test like, all right, what are you going to do? And I
Mm-hmm.
did the only thing I knew how, and that was Virginia, I will not leave you, and we will get out of here. Oh, Lord. I took her into that office, sat her down, gave her a cup of water to drink. She couldn't hold an 8-ounce cup of water. That's how
Mm.
badly her hands were burned. Now she was lucky, and if you can, if you can say that, she before she jumped through the fire, she put her hands in front of her face, so the
Yes.
back of her hands were very severely burned, but her face was okay.
Still okay.
And
Wow.
the doctors, well, I was told later, the doctors said if her face would have been burned, she probably wouldn't have made it.
Mm. Mm.
So it was unbelievable. So we're in the office. All of a sudden, the fire warden says, "Okay, we can get out. Stairwell on the left." Fine, stairwell on the left. So we walk out of the office. We come out of that hallway, all right, and I'm looking up, and all of a sudden, on the left side, I see a little sign. It says, "Exit." I'm going like, "Whoa, that's pretty good."
Mm-hmm.
Walked around, all right, behind another hall, and there was a door there, and a guy was running ahead of me, and he opened the door, and he says, "I found it." And I look inside, and I see there were lights on. So I'm thinking to myself, our lights went out. Those are probably emergency lights.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are, who knows how long they're going to stay on. So it was Roy Bell, Virginia, myself, the fire warden, and about 6 or 8 other people at the time. And I never forget, I turned around and I said, "Does anybody have a flashlight?" Thinking to myself, if the lights do go out,
I
it'll be
need to be
pitch
able to
black.
see. Yeah.
It'll
Mm-hmm.
be pitch black. It's in the middle of a building, in the middle of the stairwell, you know. And two people
Yes.
said, "Yeah, we got flashlights." And I'll never forget thinking to myself, "Where did you get a flashlight
Where
from?
did you
And
get a
why are
flash?
you carrying it?" Remember,
Yes. Yes.
it wasn't the time of cell
The
phones
norm.
where we had, smartphones. We didn't have that. So but I didn't care. I said, "Listen, folks, if the lights go out, nobody panic. We will have light." And the next thing I did was I looked down at her feet and I said, "Thank God she's wearing flats."
Oh
There were
wow.
high-heeled shoes in that
Mm-hmm.
staircase all the way down.
Oh my
Women had
God.
kicked them off to get down as fast as they could.
Well, mine would have been gone too. I tell
There
you,
you go.
I'd have been barefooted. Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, so we started to head down. We walked in a line. The fire warden, Roy Bell, myself, and Virginia, and we did that because I told Virginia if she feels faint, if she feels like she's going to fall, she should fall forward, fall on me, and I'll carry her.
Mm.
And we headed down. We got down 3 flights. Then one of the biggest miracles of the day happened to me. My cell phone rang. Now you look at me funny, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, so your cell phone rang. Well, so what? In those days, first of all, signal was very, very
That's what I
sparse.
was getting ready to say. Signal should have been horrible.
In the trade center, you could
Yeah.
never get signal.
Mm.
Never. I remember standing up by my window going, "Can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Yeah.
now?"
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
And here I was in the middle of a stairwell, in the middle of a building that never ever got any signal, and my phone rang. I was so shocked. I picked it up. I went, "Hello?" It was my wife on the other end of that phone. And she was crying and she was telling me something about a plane going into the building. I had no idea what she was talking about. I said to her, "Joyce, I'm in a stairwell. I'm on the 75th floor. I'm on my way down. Now is not a good time."
Uh, and she's like, "Baby, I need to tell you what's going on. Trust
And I
me."
and I said to her, "I'll call you when I get out of the building."
My
And I
God.
hung up the phone.
I can only imagine her heart. So, Ari, I got to say this to you. Sometime, I get it, you were on autopilot, but she wanted to tell, she needed to hear your voice, but she also needed to tell you what was going on. And you were on autopilot. We got to survive, and I can't give her any stress. I got to keep going. Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. You know, but I thought, I hung up the phone because I figured it's not going to be a big deal. I got signal, right? But it was hours until I was able to actually get signal and reach her again. Hours. So Roy Bell says to me, "Oh my God, you got signal on your phone. Can I call my wife?" I said, "Sure." I handed him the phone. He dialed. He hit send.
Wouldn't
Nothing.
go.
Nothing. dead.
Wow.
I literally looked up and I said, "Thank you,
Thank you,
God."
God. Yes,
All
because
right.
at least she heard your voice, and
Yep.
she had the comfort to know that you're
I
okay.
wasn't killed. Yeah.
Yes, and all of that
Absolutely.
what was going on, all she needed to do, she heard a voice. I'm gonna put myself in her shoes. I can only imagine. I
Yeah.
heard my husband's voice. I heard Lawrence's voice. So that means that he's still alive. So,
Right.
and he told me, you told her, I'm gonna call you back. And so
Right.
she hung on to that. Wow. Wow.
So we went down. There were,
Can't even imagine.
we got down to about the 50th floor. And Virginia says to me, "Ari, I can't go on. Can't do it." So if my first instinct was, I'll have her sit down, right? We'll give her something to drink, and then we'll get up and we'll keep moving. And I thought to myself, you know what? If she sits down, she may never get up.
She may
And if she
never.
doesn't get up, she's going to die. And I was saying to myself, not on my watch,
Not on
baby.
your
No,
watch, because I gave my
no,
word. That's
no
right.
way.
Mm-hmm.
So some people there had some like bottled water that we gave her to drink from, and then we poured it on her arms in order to give her some relief from the
Leave from
burns.
pain,
I mean,
yeah.
she was a mess. Her hair was singed, her clothes were burned. I mean, she was just a total mess. So we continued on down, and now I'm coaching. I'm counting the floors down, right,
Mm-hmm.
to keep her up. All right, you 45, 44, 42. You're doing great. You're doing great. And we were doing great until 38.
Mm.
30, 38 was backed up with people.
Oh my God.
See, the firefighters were coming up to
Yes.
fight the fires, so they were holding back
Holy
the
people.
crowd, for them to be able to get up. I'm really scared. I start yelling, "Is there a paramedic in the building? If you're a paramedic, please have a burn victim here, and if not, please step to the right and let us through." And they did. People squeezed over as much as possible and literally opened a path so that we can continue going down.
My God. My God.
We got down to the first floor, and the fire warning keeps going down. I said, "Where are you going?" He goes, "We have to get out through the garage." I turned to Virginia. I said, "We just came down 78 flights of stairs. What's another four or five?" And,
Yeah. Yeah. You can do
okay,
this. We got this. Yeah.
right. We got down two flights when all of a sudden the door on the first floor opens up and some guy yells out, "Where are you people going?" So I yelled back, "We're going out through the garage." He says, "You can't get out through the garage. You got to come back up here and come out through the first floor." I turned to Virginia. I said, "We got to go back up." She said a few things I can't say in mixed company.
I'm sure. Okay. We don't want to get banned, right?
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
God. Yeah.
But we headed back up. Here's the interesting part. I found out later there were people in that garage that never got out.
Oh my God.
Who was the guy who opened the door?
Yeah.
I don't know. I never
You
saw
never
him.
saw him again?
I never saw him in the first place. I only heard a voice.
Wow. That was God. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I always leave this to my audience's imagination.
Well, I'm gonna. It's not even my imagination. It's what I know. It was God. I mean, because just listening to how He guided you through this whole thing, so
Without a
it's
doubt.
God without a doubt. It was God.
Without a doubt.
I'm sorry
So
to
we
hear
got
that.
out. So we got out on the lobby. We went through. We had to go through the mall, through the atrium, whatever. We get out on Church Street. Cops are telling people, "Uptown, uptown, run uptown." I stopped the cop. I said, "I have a burn victim here. Where do we go?" He says, "Go across the street in front of the Millennium Hotel. We're setting up a triage center there. There'll be ambulances there. Bring her there." And that's what I did. I brought her over there, and sure enough, an ambulance pulls up, and I help her into the ambulance, and I breathe a sigh of relief because up until now, the only thing I can do is keep her spirits up. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't help her medically, but
Yes,
coaching her and guiding her—that's all I could do.
you was on
And now,
autopilot.
and now she was getting medical attention. And I stepped out of the ambulance. I turned around and I looked up the buildings and I said to a guy standing next to me, "How did building 2 get on fire?" And the guy looks at me like I'm crazy. He said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Two jetliners went into the buildings. They're calling it a terrorist attack." I'm looking at him and I'm going like, he's crazy. What are you talking
What are you
about?
talking about?
You see, I never heard that second plane.
Mm-hmm.
And people look at me and go like, "Ah, come on." I said, no, I never heard the second plane. And I realized that I was just so focused on the
On
task at
saving her life.
hand, right?
Yes.
That I just blocked everything else out. Didn't hear anything.
Artie, you are an amazing man. Again, I don't want to cut you off in any part of this story because people need to also understand what took place on 9/11. But I don't want to go any further without just really saying thank you for listening to God's voice, because just sitting back and hearing it, I truly know God was guiding you through that for something bigger than yourself. And for me,
Absolutely.
you understand, for
Yeah.
me, it's about us in this whole thing called life, doing something that is bigger than ourselves. And, and doing something for someone else. And you exhibited the epitome of being selfless. Here's a woman that really was trying to prove herself to her bosses. You could have been without a job, probably questioning how you're going to be able to take. And you probably went through a lot of stress on what's next if I lose this job, because you
Hmm.
are responsible for your household. And then God put you front and center with making sure that one of His own that He put her there for you to take
Hmm.
care of, to make sure that
Hmm.
she got down, and to be able to do that. Because usually when people hurt us, we hold on to what they did to us versus what we can get out of it. And I'm sure you're a different man than what you were when you went to work that day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Let me,
Do you believe everything happens for a reason?
of course.
Okay. So if we believe that everything happens for a reason, what do you think your reasoning was that particular day with your, and I'm sure, are you guys friends now or
Yes. Yes. As a
okay.
matter of fact, we are.
Yes. So what do you think your reasoning was that day? What do you think it was you were supposed to get out of that day?
Um, I think that I was plucked out of a collapsing, burning building and given a second chance.
Mm.
And I felt like God was sending me a message. He was saying to me, "Okay, I'm not taking you now. I'm going to give you another chance, but what are you going to do with it?" That's
Wow.
that. Those are the thoughts that went through my
That's,
mind.
and sitting back, just listening to your story, I would have to agree with that 100%. And the question would be, if given a second chance, what would I do with it? Wow, this is an amazing story. Let me ask the question, during that whole process, did you even think about the possibility of you not making it home?
Death was not an option.
Oh, wow. Survival. So you was just, this is, you knew what you had to do, you had your marching orders, and you were going to get through this.
Hmm. Absolutely.
What makes
Absolutely.
it so easy for you to tell your story now? Or did that
Well,
come over time to be
it
able
def
to? Yeah.
it definitely came over time. All right. I used to, when I first started telling my story,
Mm-hmm.
I used to break down,
Yeah.
literally. I used to break down. As time went on, I told my story. I still have that ache, all right, but I'm much more in control. Um, so,
But
but there
is
are
it?
times I will tell you there are times when I'm speaking to a large audience,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd introduce me, and I'd get on stage. I look out at the audience, and then I get like a flashback because there's the same amount of people as in my firm,
Mm-hmm.
and I would kind of like turn around and just like, my eyes would tear.
But is it control, or do you think that God is giving you, and from time to time, He wants you to remember of what you went through to keep the humility and the compassion? But do you think that He also gives you the strength to be able to press through it, where it's not so raw, but it's still there?
So I will tell you, God will never give you something that you can't handle.
But when I hear people say that, and I think coming from you, I receive it a lot different. But when I hear people say God will never give you anything that you can't handle, I think some people use it like a cliche because they
Oh
really
no,
don't. I didn't say
no, no.
you. I didn't say
Okay,
you.
okay.
No, 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 no. I'm not saying you.
Right.
Definitely not you. But I'm saying some people use it like a cliche. When I hear you, I truly, truly believe that you really mean that from the core of who you are. And the reason I say that, when I lost my dad, and I'll be, if I can be very frank without taking over your story. When I lost my dad, and I think that was probably the most life changing thing that I can think of that touched me. People would come up and say to me that he's in a better place and God would never give you anything that you couldn't bear. As a daddy's girl, I I could never bear not having my daddy with me. I couldn't imagine why God, who I've always been taught that's loving, giving,
Hmm.
forgiving, would take such a great person from me. So, in the midst of all of that, understanding that He will never give you more than you can bear is a little hard. And so, I know that we've aged since 9/11. Do you think the mindset at that time when it happened? I don't know your age, Ari. I'm 58 years young. How old are you, Ari?
I'm a little older than that.
Okay, so if we count back, how many years since 9/11? About
20,
20, 20,
22?
22
Or
years.
about to be
22
22.
Yeah,
years.
22 years. So if we think back 22 years ago, do you think that you had that He will never give me more than I can bear, or did you grapple with that? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I didn't really. It was hard. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, you lose 500 friends.
Yeah,
You know, I went to more funerals, in
yeah,
6 months that most people go to in a lifetime.
exactly. Thank you for
You know,
acknowledging that. Yes.
right? So yeah, I'm not gonna say it was easy. You know, but you just keep pushing through it,
And you
and you
leaned on
also
your faith.
I leaned on my faith and I leaned on my family.
Yes.
Okay, I leaned
Yes.
on my family, my kids, my wife and my kids. They were very very supportive. Um, we used to have a memorial
Hmm.
um, on every September 11th when I was working at the firm, and the very first year that we had it, it was. It was. I don't remember. I think it was I don't remember if it was a Sunday or it was in the middle of the week. But the first few years, we actually closed on 9/11.
Mm.
The firm closed on
Yeah.
9/11. It lasted about 3 or 4 years, and then they opened up again on 9/11. But the very first year that we had it, so there was going to be a memorial, and there was I remember Carol King was there.
Mm.
Um, she played "You've Got a Friend."
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
just like
Wow.
it became emotional. But
Hmm.
the hardest part was at the very end. They scrolled through all of the people that died. They had a running video
Hmm.
of all the people that died, and that's when I lost it.
Yeah.
And I had my two girls before I left the house. Joyce, my wife, says to me, "Take the girls with you." I go, "I don't need to take the girls with me." No, no, take the girls with you. No, girl, no. Daddy, we want to come with you. Want to come with you? I said, "Fine, come with me." And I took them. And let me tell you something. I was so happy that I did because you
Oh
know,
my God.
I just lost it.
Oh
I
my
just totally
God.
lost it.
I
And
Ari, I can't go any further without saying to you, I have to meet your wife. I have to meet your wife because just listening, because she had to also listen to God. God was speaking to her even when she didn't even know it.
Mhm.
I just can only imagine where I would be in that situation. And just I'm sure you have an amazing, no, I know you have an amazing family to have that support. Let me ask you a question. Where you think you would have been? I don't even know if I want to say that. Where do you? How did 9/11 change you?
I will tell you, in all honesty, that first of all, it took a lot of time, right? I tell people all the time, I was the same guy on Wednesday that I was on Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
minus 658 friends and coworkers. But as I started to tell my story and it started to sink in what I had gone through and what I'd been through and that I was still alive, all right, that's when the decision to really change came into play. And I tell people, so often we have people that go through some miracle, whatever, and they say to themselves, "Oh, I'm going to change. I'm going to be a monk. I'm going to be a rabbi. I'm going to be on top of a mountain. I'm going to
Yeah,
meditate." And 3 days later, it's all
they're right
gone.
back. Yeah.
They're
Mm-hmm.
right back where they started. Right. You know why? Because it was this flash, and with me, it took time. It was slow. All right. And that's why it stuck, because it wasn't that I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
nothing. But as I start, like I said, as I continued to tell my story, it started to sink in, and I became a better dad. I became a better husband. I became a better boss. I used to fly off the handle, and I didn't do that anymore. Um, my kids were my kids were secondary. They all come to the school play, come on a class trip. And the answer was always, Daddy's got to work. I can't
Mm-hmm.
do that. And then after about 8 months or so, it was like, oh yeah, Daddy
I'm gonna
changed.
make
Daddy
time
can
for that.
come.
Yeah.
That exactly,
This is
exactly.
what's important. It's so funny you said that because I think when I spoke with you a while back, I talked about how just starting to have a conversation, I've watched and I've seen how things have changed in my life.
Hmm.
When you really start to reflect and look at things, especially when something tragic happens to you, nothing to the scale. Well, one person's pain and tragedy is and so I can't measure mine's to yours and
Right.
say yours is any greater or mine's is any less because mine's was just as traumatic for me. But I
Hmm.
can say it wasn't until I really started to talk. I started to have the podcast and the radio platform. I can just see things falling off of me, weights and my life changing and evolving. And I say to my team all the time, one in particular, my coordinator, Abigail, I talk about how God has really put me in this place of peace
Hmm.
where there is no shame. It's all healing. And so I can sit down and talk to anyone and feel um, the genuineness of it. And so when I listen to you, Ari, I just, my heart, it just gets full because one, I couldn't imagine having to be responsible for someone's life along with my own, and then at the same time have to make sure that I get home to my family and not really knowing what's going on, but the last voice outside of the people in the room that are in the area with you that were all in a panic was hearing my wife. So, hats off to you. You are an amazing man with an amazing story. Keep telling your story.
Thank you.
Keep
Thank you so
telling your
much.
story because it's on in so many ways, and I'm trying to hold back because I almost want to cry because in a lot of ways it's just so encouraging and it's so you can just take it and just make it about 9/11, but it's bigger than that
Hmm.
because just having this conversation from me with you and with our listeners, my audience, the Carter crew, it just talks about doing something and being there for someone outside of yourself. And if you just do that, God is going to do the rest to give you the very best that He had intended for us in the beginning. So,
Hmm.
wow.
Well, because you know that I have my own podcast,
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about that.
And you know the name of the podcast, right?
Yes, whispers and
Whispers
bricks.
and Bricks.
Bricks. Yeah.
That's right.
Tell them about
And
that. Let's talk
I,
about that real quick.
well, real quick, I mean, that's
Well, let's talk about it. Well, I don't mean real quick, but tell them about whispers and bricks because it's
so
amazing.
Whispers and Bricks is a podcast that I started, and I bring in people from all walks of life that have gone through whatever, hardships or whatever they've gone through and that have come through it
Mm-hmm.
and managed to beat it or whatever it was. And I just wanted to, I wanted people to know and understand that, whatever they're going through, somebody else is going through the exact same thing. Probably thousands of people are going through
Thousands.
that exact same thing. But when it's happening to you, you think you're the only one. So I bring on these guests to let the audience know, look, you're not the only one.
You're not the
Okay.
only one.
Yeah, right. And it brings a, it it it's a great feeling that I have that I can do that, and I
Mm-hmm.
get to meet some
Yes.
great people, and it's wonderful. Now about the Whispers and Bricks story, um, I took it from a story that I use towards the end of my talk, and it's about this young executive who is climbing the ladder of success, and he's 35 years old, and he buys himself a brand new Jaguar, and
Mm-hmm.
he's driving through the city streets, and maybe he's moving a little too fast, whatever. And there's some kids darting in and out, and as he passes one street, all of a sudden, wham! His car gets hit by a brick.
Mm.
And the guy looks around, he puts the car in reverse, he pulls back, he sees the kid, he jumps out of his car and he grabs the kid and he says to him, "Why did you do that? Why'd you throw that brick in my car? Do you know what that's going to cost me? It's a brand new Jaguar." And the little boy looks at him and goes, "Please, mister, please. I didn't know what to do. See, my older brother fell out of his wheelchair and I couldn't pick him up and I couldn't get anybody to stop." So the guy with a lump in his throat says, "Where's your brother?" And they walk down to the end of the block, and sure enough, in the gutter, there's a overturned wheelchair and a boy in the street. So the guy picks up the wheelchair and he picks up the boy and he puts him in the chair and takes out his handkerchief and he wipes away the blood from the scratches. And the little boy starts wheeling his brother away. And he says, "Thank you, mister. Thank you so much."
Mm.
And this guy walks back to his car, sees the dent, and vows never ever to fix it because
Oh.
he never wants to forget what happened that day. And the
Mm.
moral is basically, God whispers to us all the time.
All the
He
time.
whispers to our hearts, he whispers to our minds, but we're so busy running through life that we don't have time to listen or we don't take the time to listen. So you know what happens every so often? He throws a brick at us
He
to wake
throws
us
a
up,
brick. Yes.
right?
Yes. He has
Okay,
to.
right. So I had the brick thrown at me. That was 9/11. But I tell people, you have a choice. You
Yeah.
can listen to the whispers or wait for the brick.
Right. Because it's coming one way or the other.
Hence,
Wow.
whispers and bricks.
Whispers and bricks. And can you please, this has been an amazing conversation that can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
I could you tell them how they can find you, where they can find you at, because your podcast, your story is something that is phenomenal, and I really want to make sure, and we'll make sure in our graphics that we put that there. But I want them to hear it from you. How can they find you?
Great. Okay. So um, I have two websites. One is
Okay.
whispersandbricks.com, spelled out, um, which is geared towards my podcast and, different, but about my 9/11 story as well. And the
Hmm.
other one is Ari, that's ARI, at Ari Schonbrun, ARISCHONBRUN.com. And that is, if you're looking for a keynote speaker, that's the place to go and find me. I'm also on social media. LinkedIn and Facebook are the two top ones. I don't really do, what's the Instagram? I really don't do Instagram, so
It's
don't look
hard
for
for
me.
us. It's hard for our yeah. It's
Yeah,
we
yeah.
do
Don't
get us
don't
on
look
Facebook, get us on
don't look for me.
YouTube.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
look for me. But yeah, again, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Just type in Ari Schonbrun, you'll find me. You'll find my story. And my book is called Miracles and Fate on 78
Mm.
because that's where the miracles happen. And I was on the 78th floor. Available on my website as well, or you can get it from Amazon.
Okay.
Okay, in the contiguous 48 states.
Okay.
Okay,
All righty then. Well, again, I have enjoyed this conversations with Ari, with Whispers and Bricks. You have to check him out. He has an amazing story. Just speaking with him and just hearing him is going to bless your soul, and help to get you on the right path so that you don't get hit with a brick. Listen to God's voice. Listen to the voices that are speaking to you, that's pouring into you. We don't always need to get hit with a brick to know what we need to do. Thank you so much, Ari, for taking the time to sit and share with the Love and Victory Show with Val.
Val, thank you so much for inviting me. It was truly an honor. I loved it. It's great. And you should keep doing what you're doing.